Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your little shorty. Twice in a row I hear you say yes, because I have to simply just review things now. That's what I do. It's my entire life. Get used to it. We're talking about Free Planet today, and it's one that I am not at all surprised has sold out completely. I read it because it kind of intrigued me cover-wise, and I'd heard a little bit about it, so that, yeah, this sounds like it's something I'm going to enjoy. And yeah, I absolutely did. Loved it. Frustratingly, I'm trying to cut back on buying all the single issues I want right now, because with the Absolute Universe stuff going on, I've got a lot on my pull list. So I'm probably going to wait for the trade of this one, but I'm going to be waiting with bated breath. That being said, I'm going to start with the criticism, because it'd be unfair not to. It does something which I find mildly frustrating in ensemble cast comic books, which is basically spending most of the first issue just putting the gang together. Now, it's not quite that, and it's why it's not a major criticism. It's why I still absolutely love this comic book, but it is worth talking about its approach here, because the gang is already together. We get this nice little moment where we have an explanation of this current state of the world, and then we get a little intro of who these people are. Then the story breaks down, so each character gets a few pages, sometimes tied into like actual narrative that's flowing linearly, but mostly not. Mostly it is just little bits and pieces of who these people are and what they do, what they have done in the past to lead them to where they are right now. And like I say, this is not my favourite way of doing things. I prefer to be kind of dropped in, like tell me the most exciting bit about the characters and the story that they have, and I can figure out the rest as it goes along. Like, good writing can throw character tropes and little bits of character building along with world building as it carries on. But this is a book that is very, very heavy on exposition, and I feel like it had to be this way. Just because it's not my favourite thing and because I think it can be done a different way doesn't mean it's bad, but I had to lay it out there. And it is very exposition heavy. This is a comic book dealing with lots of big things, both in world generally and themes and motifs going throughout. For instance, it is an alien world with different culture, science fiction stuff going on, actual science levels changing. There is different faiths and faith in the face of other things. But you've also got to add in the ideas of rebellion, revolution, anti-colonialism, anti-capitalism, anarchism, how you can build society and how cultures shift. So this is dealing with big actual fiction things that need to be dropped in so the story will make sense, including relationships between various characters and their place in the larger narrative, and also the kind of big ideas which interested me, the anarchist. And yeah, I love it for what it does here, because it seems to be doing for anarchism what the ragged trouser philanthropists did for collectivism, and I've got to be honest, I'm loving it. One of my favourite moments is this idea of somebody using very old ideas to tell people how to live in a way where everyone is part of a culture, turning it back on individualism and even tribalism to a certain degree, but still giving people a sense of shared culture. This is not an easy thing to do. The idea of us versus them, still an issue for humanity generally in the universe. So seeing it explained in this way kind of shows that there is room for it to grow. We also have some very interesting queer takes on some characters, which is quite nice. We haven't yet so far really had much in the way of just using aliens as a way of discussing racism, although, you know, I won't be surprised if it does that. It seems to be a fairly common sci-fi trope to do it. But I don't think it'd do it in a lazy way. I think it would actually make me care about how they were doing it, because this is clearly written by somebody who cares about these ideas and these ideals even. It also looks fantastic. The cover, same artist internally as well, is brilliant, and it has a very European vibe to it for me, and it's kind of hard to nail exactly what I mean by that. Like I say, it's a vibe, but if I was going to try, I'd say it does kind of interesting layouts in a way which for this kind of comic book feels natural, but is something which will, well worth commenting on more in an American comic book. You also have characters who, although, yes, certainly good looking, are not necessarily the human ideals in the way that we get in more American, shall we say, comic books. There's also quite a nice take on the sci-fi technology, which feels far more utilitarian, and when we do see stuff which is more shiny and uniform rather than function above all else, it is done by the oppressors, by the colonizers, by the imperialists, because that is a bit more important. And when I was flicking through it, I was reminded of between the M16 and the AK-47, one of which is certainly aesthetically pleasing now because of the history and the things it's accomplished, but the other one is all sleek and shiny, it's got a little suitcase handle on top, because that's kind of what they were going for in terms of making it look the way it did, as opposed to just making it fully functional. All of this comes together to make it a fantastic story, and I genuinely am looking forward to sitting and reading it once it's all complete. I'm also probably going to read other people's copies if somebody in my store subscribes to it, because I do genuinely want to carry on with it. That's it for me for now, though. Until I see you all again, look after yourself, stay safe, bye!